memorial, but no matter what, it's still sad.
I know.
No
I
matter
had to
what.
fight back tears a few times during that.
So
Definitely did Frank justice, I think.
I
Yes,
think he
you
enjoyed
did.
it. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
he's watching, enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he's right here. And now here's
you.
Pat Brady, and Pat's going to talk a little bit about, the work that she did with Frank here in CTV. And so, Pat, I know you did all those shows. How many years did you do the UFO show? Something wrong with the microphone?
Yeah, just give it a second. The technical difficulty, you know.
Okay, is it okay now?
All righty. I just wanted to say a few words about Frank. You know, besides being family, we were always family.
Yeah.
Friends, all of us.
Right.
This place is a family of friends, composed of friends.
That's right.
Frank has given his heart to everyone, and on all the shows he's given his heart. True actor. I just wanted to point out that years ago, about 12 years ago, one of the first things we did was the UFO show, We Are Not Alone UFO. I met Frank and Anne-Marie Arena over at College of Staten Island, and we did a shoot there. And I work over at the observatory, the Astrophysical Observatory, and I said to Frank and Anne-Marie, well, gee, let's come down and we'll take a look at some of the stars or some of the objects out in deep space. And Frank said, well, did you ever see an alien going by or a spaceship? And I said, no, gee, maybe Canada geese every once in a while will go in front of the scope. And Frank started to talk about an experience when he was in Texas in the Army. And after he said his story, Anne-Marie told her story about a spaceship and aliens landing over near Eltingville, Great Kills in Eltingville. And myself, I used to watch iridiums going over in deep space, you know, space where the where the space station is. You can see them come up and then set. So we started talking about aliens and spaceships, and in the conversation, I said, well, gee, Frank, why don't we do a show about UFOs? Anne-Marie agreed, Frank agreed, I agreed, and I said, let's do at least one. Let's see how it goes. Frank said, well, I know somebody that was on the Staten Island ferry, and she saw something going into the water, and that was Sylvia Mock. That was one of the first shows.
Right.
We went live, and at that point, we had the phones on in the beginning, early in the beginning. It was an hour show. The show went in a blink of an eye, and we had so many callers, we said, let's do another show. 50 shows later, 50-plus shows later,
That's right. Yeah.
we did UFO shows. And it ran its course. And we were pre-planning with one of the staff people to do another UFO show, and I will carry that program out. But in the meantime, 9/11 comes up, and Frank and I started talking about terrorists, the country, people, how they're getting hurt, and we decided to do a show together.
Yep.
And in 2002 was one of the first shows that we did, and we had Bante Kandanya on,
Right.
because people didn't know about Indian people or Sri Lankan people. They thought that anybody foreign was a terrorist. So Frank and I had a few guests on. Christine, you helped out.
Right.
Crew.
Yep.
Christine has always been helpful, and she's there every day, every time. At any show, she's there. So we did a few shows on the first year, which was the 2002, because there was a lot of damage here done at CTV. And we every year since, we've done a show about the attack on American freedom. And also, I have a few, I have a little clip of the UFO show and the attack on American freedom.
Okay.
I just want, I'll end it with that. And David, if you can just go to the first tape and then come back to me and I'll just talk a little bit more.
Thank you. And keep watching.
Keep watching the skies.
Yes.
There was a very definite bonding experience for Jim and his son, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, this will be a lifelong something that they can share together.
This is the same thing I had with my wife and I. I mean,
Exactly.
I thought, my wife said, "You're not going to say anything," and I said to my wife, I said, "No," I said, because everyone would think I'm crazy. But now I don't care anymore.
There you go.
I think it's great that
How
people
long
feel
ago
so
was your
comfortable.
This was April of 1979.
Okay, 79. Mine was 82, February of 82. And again, once a seer, always a believer.
that's
And, it took me 11 years to talk. But go ahead, we have another caller.
But before we do, though, I think it's great that people do feel so comfortable calling here, telling us about this. People who don't watch all the time or only catch us infrequently may not realize it. They've probably heard it once or twice tonight, but most of us on the panel, and I'm not entirely certain that everybody hasn't seen something. My experience was back in 1966 in Texas. Anne-Marie, the early 80s, and on and on. And when people call here to tell us things that they have never told anyone else, it makes me feel like we're here for a good reason.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
Go right ahead.
Let's
Take
go
the
to
next
the call.
call.
The time is winding down.
Winding down.
Caller, you're on the air. Back. That was a live call-in show. Frank just happened to be talking about his experience down in Texas when he was in the Army. And I just want to mention that in that time frame, there was a ceremony which CTV had, and it was the Novas. And David, if you can just show a picture of the statue of the Novas on the table, picture. It was
Frank and Kevin Lewis had gotten one for The Littlest Elf.
The Littlest Elf was what year was that, Chris?
Oh, it says on the front there. Well, Chris, would you look at it?
96.
96,
1996. Yes, and Kevin is now gone too. I just wanted to mention that too. Kevin and Frank remained good friends. Kevin moved to Tennessee, and they remained good friends. And Kevin passed away a month before Frank at the tender age of 52. And they won that Nova, yeah.
That was one of the
Go ahead,
first
Pat.
Novas. I just wanted to mention that in 1999, Frank, myself, and Anne-Marie Arena had won a Nova, and it's on the table.
Also, yes.
For the UFO, We Are Not Alone, the phenomena. And, they spelled Frank's name wrong.
Yeah.
They called him Frank Dudley. And
Instead of Dudley, yeah.
And I said, look, Frank, maybe just give it back. And they said they would do this. This was a time where there was a lot of unrest here at SICTV, when things weren't as smoothly as just other times. Frank did give the Nova back to the person, I don't want to mention names, the person in charge, and he never received his Nova. Never received his Nova. I don't know what happened to it. He requested it, and maybe some of the staff would know where it is, because I'm still angry over that. It's not fair. Frank gave his heart to this show. He never received his Nova because of a mistake that they made on his name. And I just want to let everyone know that. I'm still really upset.
Right.
And if any of the staff are listening, please, let's give him what he deserves.
That's right.
Okay, so
So you have another clip?
yes. The second one, again, is the attack on American freedom. So we're going to roll this one for about a minute or so, and here's Frank. walking from one point to another?
The commemoration ceremony takes place with friends and family members, and it's unveiled. There were many street renamings and unveilings between that time and now. Father Judge was, in addition to being the fire department chaplain, was a very close friend of the mayor at the time. And I'm sure that a lot of people felt his loss very, very much.
Mayor Giuliani.
Yeah, Mayor Giuliani.
Mayor
right.
Giuliani. So did they put a picture of the street sign? I didn't see it on the monitor.
There were, I saw the picture
That's
of
the
some
famous
people
picture?
and the
It was up?
street, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't looking over there. I was looking at
Okay.
Frank. So we have a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
What would you like to start with, Frank?
Well, there's been a lot going on, a lot of potential tension lately. Well, on the light side was the boat, finding the boat. Mm-hmm. And at first they didn't know if it was a craft that had been sunk there for landfill when the island was extended. I heard just the other day that they don't think that was the case, that it was probably a coastal schooner, a two-master, about 70 feet long, that may have been built in the Caribbean. But at a certain point, it was making regular trips to the Caribbean because in examining the hull, they found certain, I guess, remnants of flowers and
Yes.
some sea life that's only found in that part of the world. They found a coin, and unfortunately, it's so deteriorated they can't tell exactly when it was from, but they think it was probably towards the end of the 17th century that it was built.
Do you think it was a pirate ship?
No, but in fact, that question came up in the program I was listening to, and they mentioned something I had never heard of before. It was the Jersey Pirates.
Ah.
There were pirate bands in New Jersey who came out because New York was a great shipping center and all, and they would hide in the marshes of New Jersey, and occasionally come out and attack ships. Mm-hmm. That were usually coming into port, because that's when you find them, laden with goods and spices and coins and stuff like that. I had never heard of them before. I'll have to look into that.
Okay, did they put a picture of the boat up, Chris? They did. Okay. Well, I'm looking away from the monitor, like I should be.
That's right.
Okay. What was that third thing now? Trees.
The trees.
Trees.
Yeah.
Trees of life, Frank.
80-foot trees.
They're supposed to grow to about 80 feet.
Yeah.
They're about 20 feet now, 18, 20 feet. About 10 of them are planted.
How many will there be altogether?
I think it's about 100.
Really?
Yeah, or even more. But we have a picture of the trees, and if they could put the trees up, there they are. Those are the first ones planted, the first 10 that are planted. Okay, we're back.
Yes.
And I just want to say that I miss Frank. He was a humble person. He was a listener. Not too many people listen in this world. He gave his heart and soul to everyone, and I just miss him. He's a
We
good
all
friend.
miss him. We all miss him very much.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for letting me say a few words. Okay.
You were saying, Lance, that there was going to be another movie.
Well, before that, like I was saying, we weren't only involved with movies together. We spent a lot of time doing other things together, other projects. Every year they have a horror convention over in Secaucus, in a hotel, in a Sheraton. And I brought Frank with me a couple of years, and he was like a kid in a candy store, because all the old-time horror actors were there. And he talked.
Oh, sure.
When I first got there, I said, "What did I do?" He's talking to every single person. We were
He
there
talked
for
to everybody.
hours.
He talked to everybody, and when it came time to leaving a place and saying goodnight,
Yeah.
it was like pulling teeth
You
getting
couldn't-
him out of
yeah.
there.
He saw Fred Gorshin, who people might remember. He played the Riddler on the Batman series, And he started talking to him about stuff that he did in Manhattan, and they ended up knowing each other from years ago.
Wow.
So it was amazing to bring him there. But what I was telling you was Chris wrote a story called Last Call, a script. And it's something we decided to move forward with. And Frank
There's
had...
Frank right in the middle over there.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is.
The CTV truck, I
He
remember
loves
that truck.
jacket. Go ahead.
He had one of the lead roles in this as Willie.
He was Willie O'Boyle, yes.
He was a retired Vietnam vet. And Frank was growing his hair long and everything for this role. I mean, he was researching this role, and he really wanted it bad, but he passed away. But we're going to move forward with this, and we're going to dedicate to him, this film.
That's wonderful.
Because I know he would have wanted it. But, yeah, he was looking forward to doing it,
Yeah.
But
I'd like Frank's childhood friend, Bob, to come up and say a few words. Bob, would you come up for a few minutes? Because Bob and Frank go back to kindergarten
Wow.
yeah.
in Blessed Sacrament.
Don't take my stand.
This is Bob Larson, and
Well,
he and Frank have been very, very close friends.
Yeah, you've heard all these nice things about Frank. Now I'm here for rebuttal. And I hope you're chuckling, Frank, when you heard that, because my experience with Frank is different than most everyone that's here, because I only knew Frank for a little while, 59 years and 2 days. He was the first person I met in kindergarten in 1951. And we had a lot of humor. Well, anyway, what I'm going to miss about Frank is all the private humor that we had. Growing up through grammar school, we had so many things, little bits of humor that we said to each other, and I'm going to miss those a great deal. And you know what I'm going to say to Frank is, if you meet Sister Anita wherever you are, Master Dudley, give her what for. See you, Frank.
So, anyway. So now that Frank is gone, you're going to do this other film. You're going to dedicate it to him. And when do you expect to complete it?
Well, we're still in early pre-production, because it's going to be a feature film, and it needs a lot. It needs, locations and all stuff we have to get together.
And he'll probably guide you to all the right places, people, everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Frank had read the script years before, and I told him, I said, I think you would be great for this role. And Lance agreed, and he really enjoyed it, and he wanted to do it. And I used to drive him, I'd come pick him up and drive him to the sets, and we talk about how he wanted to play his character, and this is going back a couple of years. So he was really getting invested in playing that character. So we really need to dedicate this to him.
And
That'll be nice.
My company, we took a big blow losing Frank, but a month later we lost Dennis.
Yes, I know.
Who, as you saw in the tribute video, Dennis and Frank met on Dead Man's Hand. And
they became fast friends also.
They became very close. Dennis used to tell me all the time, he said, I've done big films, and Dennis has done big films. He said, but the feeling I had on that little set, I felt like we were family, and I got so close to you and Frank, and he used to always consider himself part of the family, and then he passed too.
I know.
And both of them were 64 years old.
Right, and it's really amazing that they did a show called Dead Man's Hand, a movie called Dead Man's Hand.
And they both die in the movie.
And they both die in the movie, and then they both passed away in real life, like 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Dennis was
Yeah.
at his wake, December 10th.
Yeah. So it was hard enough getting, going through with Frank, and then Dennis on top of it. It's been rough.
Hard. Yeah, it's been rough.
It's been a rough winter.
I know. Well, Frank lost his friend, like as I was saying before, Kevin Lewis, who he co-wrote The Littlest Elf with. There was a little Christmas story about a little elf and Santa Claus and all that. It was a puppet show, actually. And Kevin passed away on November 4th, 2010, and I was in Ohio when visiting my family when Frank passed. And he called me on the phone to tell me that he had just learned about Kevin. And he was very upset because, he and Kevin remained close.
Right.
And then he passed away December 5th. and then Dennis went in January
Yeah.
of 2011.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's amazing that he and two people he felt very close with all passed around the same time.
Yeah. And you know, like you said, Frank was always willing to have anything to do with any type of filming. There's many films we did in his bed, in his bedroom that he wasn't even in.
Well, you covered that my whole house.
Oh yeah,
from
half
the
of them
attic to the
films.
basement.
Yep, the attic to the basement to the backyard to the front of the house.
That's right.
And he was always willing to like use whatever you want, do whatever you want. You know,
Yeah.
I'm here, use the house, right?
And it wasn't just with like films. He worked with pretty much anybody who was making a film on Staten Island or had a TV show or worked at CTV.
Yeah.
He just loved to do this stuff.
Right.
And it's rare to meet somebody who's just willing to give himself to everything.
Because you don't find that.
You know?
You know, you don't find he was an old soul, and you don't find that type of person every day.
Yes, he was an
You
old
know.
soul, you could tell, and he's also a very powerful spirit now, I know
There's
it.
one thing that he did to me.
Yeah,
He made me love coffee.
which may not be a good
Because of
thing.
him, because of him, every time Frank, when he would go out and he'd have that first cup, what he used to say, "You're a godsend. You're a godsend." I say that every once in a while when I have a cup of coffee.
Well, we would go to...
He loved coffee.
Yeah, he did, because we'd go to like a diner or something, and the waitress would come over and say, "What are you drinking?" And he'd say, "Yes,
Put the intravenous
put the
right here."
intravenous right here for the coffee." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the simple things. I'd call him up in the morning and he'd say, "Frank, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm feeding the squirrels, reading the paper, the classical music's on, the coffee's on." I'm like, wow, if everyone could be like that
Yeah,
and be happy doing the simplest thing,
yeah.
you know?
He lived a simple life, but it was happy, and he died in his sleep, which everybody says that's the way I want to go.
Yeah, he definitely, I think he kind of went out the way he could have best or wanted to go.
Right.
There he is
Right.
playing the sheriff.
Yeah, that's his last role.
That was his last role.
And ironically, Tom, who's in the audience, wrote that. And Tom used to, you know, I worked with Tom years before, I mean, on the Death Files, Frank's first movie. And Tom wrote a few scripts after that Frank was in. And then Tom came back all these years later to write The Lonely Road, and that happened to be Frank's last film. It was just an ironic thing, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we never know when it's our time, because that day, that's
It's
the last
true.
time I saw him in person was on that shoot.
It's true. We don't know when our time is up, because I know that he wasn't expecting. I mean, I talked to him the night before.
He left me a voicemail. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow." And I told you what he said. He
That's
said,
right.
I'll be there with Bob, and I can't wait. And he says, "I'd like to bring a cuddly female, but she's in Ohio."
Yeah, I know. You got to
and
get
then-
me a copy of that message. I know
You know, I
kept
saved
it.
that on
Yes.
like 5 different formats, so
Right.
I have it. And that was it. That was it. That's why I couldn't believe it. I said, he was so happy the night before.
I know. I couldn't believe it either when I got the news. Bob called me. He was the one that discovered Frank, and we're all going to miss him very, very much. I know. I mean, we all already miss him a lot.
But at least we can visit with him pretty much anytime we want. We can put on a movie that he was in,
That's right.
a production that he was in.
That's right.
And we can at least
I know.
see him.
Watching what we were just watching on
Right.
the show tonight, I felt like he was, well,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, I mean, even when I was at Dennis's wake, and I was looking at all the people there, and I'm saying to myself, you know what, I feel like I have one up on everybody, because I have so much footage of these guys. They're alive forever.
Right.
When you see him on that screen before and you heard his voice, he was alive again.
That's right.
So you stay alive forever on film.
That's right. Yes.
So yeah, but I think Frank passed the way Frank would have wanted to pass.
Oh yeah.
In
Well,
his sleep with a smile on his face.
I know.
Not being sick.
Yeah.
People to see him sick and getting worse. He
Yeah.
just, you know.
yeah. Well, I'd rather
And-
see that happen than see him suffering or something like that.
It was Chris's idea at Frank's wake. It was packed at the night viewing.
I think we'll do the same thing at the end of the show
And
here.
Chris had an idea that we should give Frank a standing ovation.
Right.
And that place roared. They stood up. Everyone stood up. And I've never seen that before.
Me either.
They were clapping and cheering for him, and it was
The
amazing.
man deserved it.
Yes, he did. Yes.
It was amazing.
Well, we're all just going to have to go on and remember him and keep him in our hearts.
And happy birthday, Frank. It's Frank's
Happy
birthday
birthday,
today.
Frank. We love you, Frank. Frank!
I can't help it. It's just, I just miss him so much, and I always will.
He'll always be with you, Christine.
I know, he'll always be with all of us because he loved everybody. He does, and he loves everybody that's here now, I'm sure.
Loves everybody at CTV that he worked with,
Yeah.
and pretty much everybody he met and came in contact with.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's nobody that has anything bad to say about him, and he never had anything bad to say about anybody.
And that's true.
It's the truth, and he met everybody with kindness and love, and we're all gonna miss him. Thank you for coming on. Thank you
for having
everybody
us.
for being here tonight. We're going to just remember Frank and keep him in our hearts. Take care, everybody. Good night.